Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome back to season 2, episode 3. Real change needs real change. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a topic I am so fucking passionate about. Something I've mentioned in most episodes since starting this podcast. Something I advocate with every person I work with one-to-one within my coaching company. Something I live my life by, I preach, I teach. It's the topic I think personally that creates a progressive individual. It is the one dynamic that will change everything for your future self. Now, before we start, season 2, episode 3, we're in the new studio. Now, bear with me. I'm still setting up. I'm still yet to hang this bad boy or see if I'm going to change it to be a bit of material on the wall instead of canvas. I'm still deciding what drink I'm going to be having whilst in the new studio, whether it's sugar-free, whether it's Monster coffee or Monster. One day we'll be drinking, or I'll be drinking and cracking open a can or a drink that is sponsoring this episode or something that I advocate, which is really fucking exciting. But let's get into this episode, right? Let's get into starting the conversation about real change needs real change. Now, what does that mean? Real change needing real change covers so many fucking things. It is connected to every topic. It is connected to everything we want to progress, what we want to do different, what we want to see change for our future self, for our life, for our friends around us, the relationships we have with other people. Real change is the conscious dynamic or the conscious setting that what you are doing or what you want to have happen moving forwards needs real change. It doesn't need surface level change. It doesn't need temporary change. It needs a real change to happen within you or externally within your lifestyle to stay being consistent, to stay being long-term, to ultimately affect your life. Real change is fucking hard. It is fucking scary. It's tiring. It's consistent. It's always progressive. It's always something we can level up, do more of, or do better. Real change is something a lot of people don't do often. A lot of people make small changes. They make temporary. They make changes that they think others will think is viable. They make changes that they think is just enough. But that's why it never fucking lasts. That's why it never stays around. That's why you see some people do things differently and then go back to their old ways. That's why you see some people doing things and it's a forever consistent fucking struggle. People who do weight loss challenges very rarely succeed because the change is not real change. It's temporary. It is a fake created life and system for a temporary period of time to have change happen, which is exciting, motivating, awesome, but it's not going to last. This is a question or statement I say to people all the time, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through the conversations I have or the updates I write at the end of the week for my coaching clients. But you need to truly dive deep to have change be a long-term consistent factor. There is a reason you are in the position you are in. That is what I say. That's the statement. That's the potential rhetorical question I might say. There's a reason you're in the position or the situation you are in. There is a reason that the temporary changes you make don't alter the course long term. Because until you tackle that issue, struggle, trauma, tendency, protective factor, nothing's going to fucking last. You might be able to change your life, lose some weight, but if you have a bad relationship with food, that's the needed real change. You might be able to save some money for a little bit, but if you're a bad saver, if you're a big spender, if you splurge, if you're not good at knowing when to say no, it's not going to last long term. You might be able to fake being a happy individual to gain a new friendship, but if there's something underlying underneath that keeps you feeling flat or having negative thoughts, it's not going to last long term. When I used to do coaching, when I used to do PT, it was all about surface level change. It was about macros, it was about weights, it was about hitting your steps, lifting heavier, it was about building muscle, losing fat, getting an insane result. But when I first started, I noticed that if someone stopped, sometime later, they stopped too. They either stopped continuing what we learnt together, or they stopped going to the gym. They regressed back to where they started. This is something I've been developing and creating for a long term and fine tuning, but I was shocked. I was like, I didn't understand why it wasn't continued or why they weren't maintaining or retaining the work we had done. But then I started to ask deeper questions. I started to dive below the surface. I started to explore a little bit more. And I started realizing humans are so fucking complex. We are built to reproduce, to survive, to thrive, to protect ourselves, to stay safe. We have genetic and primal programming within our body, our personality, and the way we are as a human to keep us protected, to keep us learning, to keep us progressing, which is there to serve us, but it can also be what holds us back. It can also be what anchors us down. If you're someone who reacts in a certain way because of what you've experienced in the past, your body is doing that, or your mind is doing that to protect you. It's doing it to keep you safe. It's learnt a mechanism or a reaction. When this happens, I do this because that's what I've learnt to keep me moving forwards. But that can be detrimental. That can also have the same level of genetic programming in negative situations, such as binge eating, such as starving yourself, such as overtraining, undertraining, lacking motivation, lacking care, lacking drive. Your body can learn it to be progressive and to protect you, but it can learn it to be regressive, to protect you, but it doesn't actually protect you. It's a primal instinct that's not keeping up to times with how things work nowadays and how we want to be progressive or how we want our life to look. That's why when you have so many conversations or moving forwards after listening to this podcast, you might realize people have reasons and excuses for everything. Oh, I can't because of this, or I don't because of this, or I'm unable to because, and you'll start to realize, fuck, you've learned that you can get away with saying that. You've learned that actually doing what you're saying stops you from having to work harder or having to do this or having to do that. You can start to pick up on it. And I have conversations with people so many times that might not know that I have the knowledge I have, or I have the experience of working with people to the extent that I do, and they'll say something and I'm able to almost counter every single response they have. Not to be a toxic positive person, not to be a smartass, but because everything they say, there's always a way around it if that's wanted. But if they're never questioned on it and they've learned they can get away with it, the ability to navigate that on your own is really fucking hard and really rare. But let's link it back around. So real change, needing real change, means that you're in the position you're in at the moment because you're protecting yourself, you've learned what works, you're in a routine, you're in a habit. You might not like where you're at, that's okay. You might not be in the position you want to be in, but you find it hard to change it. And it's because real change needs real fucking change. Everything you do stems from something. The most important question I've ever asked myself, and I actually really highlighted this and we had a conversation about it in one of my first episodes with Luke. I think it might be episode 3 if you want to check that out. But it's asking yourself the question, why? Why? There's always a further, deeper question you could ask yourself. I'm in a position I'm not happy with. I don't like how I look. My body fat's high. Why am I in this position? Well, I'm in this position because I don't really exercise. I don't monitor what I eat. And sometimes I just comfort and self-soothe through food. Why do I do that? Well, my job's busy and I don't have the time and I'm always tired and food's just too hard. Well, why am I always busy and why can't I find the time? Oh, it's just too hard to wake up. Why is it too hard to wake up? And I don't want to sound psychotic or I don't want to sound annoying, but that question, if you keep asking it, it's like an onion. You'll eventually peel off enough layers, you'll get to the core. You'll peel off enough, you'll get lower and lower. You'll peel the surface level. Oh, I'm in this position because I don't train and I don't eat well. Why? Oh, because of this. And you're peeling and you're peeling. And you might peel so far that you get to the core that you learn that when you were a child, you were rewarded with food. So that's why nowadays as an adult, when you succeed in something, you outlet through food. When you're struggling or you're not feeling good, you outlet through food. So technically, without overstepping from my end, because I'm not telling you what you need to do, I'm going to start talking about personal experience. Technically, from what I've experienced with individuals and almost every person I've worked with, until you change or work on or dive deep enough, whether that's with a counselor, psychologist, friends, family, it's on your own, until you dive into that core and you start working on that core aspect that as a kid you were rewarded with food, things aren't going to change long term. Now, I don't want you to take what I'm saying as a holy fuck. If I want to actually be progressive and change, I'm going to have to step into this massive, fucking heavy and intense aspect of self-discovery. That's not necessarily true. Not everything needs to be worked on. There are some things that serve you really good, and there are some things that aren't very healthy that still serve you. So for instance, as a child, as a response from my father passing away, I started to develop traits of perfectionism. I was a perfectionist in school. I wanted to be liked by a lot of people. I wanted to get good grades. I remember there was this one year in school, I got straight A's for the full year. But the last year's report, so you get 4 reports each term. On the last report, term 4, I got straight A's and 1 fucking B. And I remember having a meltdown. I cried and I was so upset. I didn't talk to anyone and I was disappointed. And it was something that I thought I was just a high achiever. I was a hard worker. But little did I know it was the development of perfectionism. Perfectionism has served me so fucking well in life as an adult because it's allowed me to put in my best effort always try and be working hard as fuck, try and do different and better than others per se, try and do more rather than resting and getting hungover and fucking around. I was always wanting to work and fine tune and do better. It's allowed me to show up 110% with my clients, have a website, podcast, all of this. It served me really well. But 2 years ago, it got so detrimental. That is the lowest my mental health has ever been. It's the lowest my mental health ever was because of so many different things and so many aspects that compounded from when I was a child that started to surface. The perfectionism got too much. I started working too much. The days got longer, the sleep got less, the striving for it being better and better went over the top. So you can see it served me really well for a long period of time, but then it got too much. It started having a detrimental effect to my relationship with friends, to my enjoyment with work, to my mental health, to the way my life was structured. So real change needed to happen. Now, at the time, I started diving into a lot of self-development work and I started diving into exploring humans being more complex than just the surface level. But little did I know that there was a fucking onion in front of me and I was going to have to peel this fucker down to the core to change that. I still have traits of perfectionism now, but they serve me. I show up. I want to be early. I want to be putting maximum effort in. I want to do the best I can, but it doesn't get over the top. Now, I knew today's episode was going to be a vulnerable one from my end because I'm not an accredited psychologist. I can't tell you with 100% confidence and comfort that this is how you need to do it in terms of the psychology aspects. and have that sit well with me. I am so beyond comfortable to tell you how I've done things, how I've programmed things and they've worked for other individuals. But I knew that I was going to have to talk from a level of personal experience to get my point across, because personal experience is your receipt validating what you're saying. So here's another example of real change needing real change. As an adult, I always had struggles with needing to be better than other individuals. Not better in the sense of faster or have better clothes or look better or have a better lifestyle necessarily. It was tied to being better than other individuals in business, showing up more, learning from what they do wrong and progressing from that, outworking people, putting in more hours, doing more things, expanding more, earning more money, working with more people. That was something from when I first started coaching up until that 2 year ago point I struggled with. I had this strive to need to be better, and it got, again, detrimental. It was a compounding effect that affected my mental health and really altered my life in a negative way. So real change needs real fucking change. It wasn't just a simple, okay, well, I'll stop comparing. Or it wasn't a simple not thinking this anymore. It was a fucking hard self-dive into learning why I was the way I was, because I wanted it to change long term. And without real change isn't going to happen. Without diving down further, without peeling back that onion, without exploring truly why I was the way I was, things weren't going to change. I could fake and bullshit for a few months that I didn't care if someone was outworking me or doing more than me, but that wasn't true. It fucking mattered. It affected me. It was an issue. So I learned it stemmed from when I was a child. I was surrounded by people who had more money than me. They were smarter than me. They were doing better things than me. I always felt like the less intelligent, less fortunate, less intelligent, less fortunate, and just second. I think that's a good way to sum it up. I always felt second. So that then I didn't know, compounded through my life, came out as an adult that I needed to prove to myself to be first. I needed to have that validation that I wasn't second. I didn't want that anymore. That's not the life I want to live. I don't want to be better than people. I don't want to be comparing myself to what others are doing to validate what I'm doing. I want to make myself proud. I want to be doing good things for me and my people. I want it to be a healthy balance of doing the best I can and knowing that I'm working hard and knowing that I care for that standard. So I needed to change it. But again, that real change comes from real fucking change. An example I see all the time is with challenges. Weight loss challenges, 13-week challenges, whatever the fucking time frame is. It's that bullshit life setting where someone is given an unrealistic routine of food, an unrealistic routine of movement and weight protocols and programming. They adhere to it. They're motivated. They're killing it. I've seen people lose 15, 20, fucking 30 kilos in those challenges. And 4 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, they're back to where they started. They're back to pre-challenge. Sometimes they're even more regressed than where they started because the response or the turnaround or the result of the challenge created a self-sabotaging system where they went even further. Same thing, right? Real change needs real change. They didn't fucking change truly. They changed their life in a temporary setting to have a thought to be long-term change that didn't last. It is so fucking rare, so rare I've ever seen a successful long-term challenge individual that's achieved a high result that is still maintaining that lifestyle and system now. Please do not take this as a discredit to that individual. I've seen people bust ass. I've seen people work harder on their goals than what I would myself. I've seen them put in the 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. days. I've seen them absolutely grind. It is not a fault of their own. It is the sold bullshit that a challenge will change your life. It is the idea that fast change. I want it now. I'm sick of where I want things to be different now. That's another aspect of struggle. That's another issue tied to this whole topic. People want change now. They want it fast. They don't like where they're at. They want it to be different. It doesn't work that way. It's your fault. It's your responsibility. It is your control over your life for getting yourself to where you got to. That can be the result of bad things, shit things, things you didn't choose. I get it. Like always, I'm with you. I'm one of those individuals. But you're at where you're at now from choices you've made. You can't be so fucking selfish and work only for the current you to see a fast change. This is the Future Self podcast. I hope you understand that it's about working for your future self. That takes time. It takes fucking time. I used to, as I said in previous episodes, call myself the transformation, the results-based coach, but they're temporary results. Someone losing fast weight in a short amount of time, it's not good. I don't know why it's celebrated. I don't know why we congratulate 10 kilos in 5 weeks. It's not fucking how things work. Now, I'm not saying that if you're losing quick or getting a good result, you need to slow down because you're on the wrong path. Just as a general consensus, we celebrate fast, rapid change, but fast, rapid change is very rarely tied to long-term, consistent compounding. I now post results of someone losing 10 kilos in 12 months, which some people would look at and go, what the fuck? That's not much. Firstly, it is. It's fucking insane. But secondly, people fail to realize how much change these individuals are undergoing, how hard they've worked to rewire the systems they've created, their habits they've relied on. Their real change, creating real change. That's what's going on. If you struggle to get up in the morning because you lack motivation, it's not getting up in the morning that's going to change your life. It's learning why you can't show up for yourself, knowing if you got up in the morning and went for the walk, it would get you on the pathway to working on your goals. It would have you achieving down the line what you want to achieve. So you could just force yourself to get up and celebrate that you forced yourself, or you could ask the questions, you could dive deeper. Why the fuck do I struggle to show up for myself? Why do I not care? Why is there a roadblock there? Once you tackle that, once you work on that, getting up becomes a little bit easier because you understand yourself better. You understand how things work and why you respond the way you respond. So yes, that person who's forced themselves to get up for a morning walk has now lost 4 kilos. The other person who's just learnt why they can't show up and they're starting to challenge that a little bit has only lost 1 kilo. We celebrate the 4 kilos, we frown on the 1 kilo, but little do we know that 1 kilo is doing more for their future self than what the other person is doing. Now, again, it's not a comparative based thing. One's not better than the other. They each play their role. The 4 kilos eventually plays the role to learn that that's not how things work, to then jump on the same pathway as the 1 kilo individual's actions. But it's that fact that the real change needs real change. If you can't show up for yourself in the morning, question yourself why, work out why, change that, then it gets a little bit easier. Similar to myself, or another example, why I used to put myself through being hungover on the weekend. I ran a decently big business back then in my eyes for a coaching company. I had responsibility. I hated being hungover, hated being depressed. Why the fuck was I doing that? I didn't like the lifestyle. Why did I continuously keep doing it? So I asked the questions why. I dove deeper. I questioned myself more. I got to the root cause of why I was doing it. I worked it out. I stepping stoned my own pathway against it or around it. And now I don't do it because it doesn't serve me. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't do good things for me. I feel like this episode could be one that goes on for a long, long time. And I truly wish I probably did it in season 1 or season 3, because season 2's topic is sparking the idea without giving all the answers and keeping the episode shorter. I know I'm a relative way in now, just based on learning what the length of a conversation feels like. I know I'm getting to the end of the topic. I definitely will link back around to do this episode again. I'm going to talk about this topic again. I feel like I'll talk about it with someone and open up a longer conversation, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, because there's more justice I can give this topic, this dynamic that real change needs real change. But I feel like I've served the justice of what I want to in season 2, which is sparking the idea. It is highlighting a different perspective of something you maybe haven't thought of before. It's giving the first step of education towards a new topic or a new idea. If there are things you are doing that aren't serving you well, simple change might not be the answer. Asking the question why won't ever do a detriment to the education you have about yourself. If you want to learn more about yourself, if you want to go on self-discovery, if you want to level yourself up, be a better human being, a more aligned individual, ask yourself the question why. Why do I do this? Why do I feel that way? Why is that my choice? Why do I respond that way? Why do I struggle to do this? Why is that my default setting? Ask the question why. If you want real change, whether that's your body, your lifestyle, friends, your relationship, how your future is tracking, or the pathway it's walking down, asking yourself the question why can alter that full thing or that full dynamic change, because real change needs real fucking change. I stand by it so strongly. There is no long-term success in a minor surface level change, reactive or responsive to altering what you want to have happen for the current you. Look after the future you. Don't be selfish. Yes, I know we want change now, fast things. We want to jump on it, clear the pantry and get fresh fruit and veg. We want to get new runners. We want to wake up and sunrise walk. We want to train 6 sessions, but that doesn't lead to long-term success. Learn a little bit more about yourself, learn why you do what you do, and that will allow you to map out the pathway and structures of the change you might need to do to have it be long-term successful. I know this topic can be a bit touchy. I know it is a pretty strong perspective I have, but it comes from backing. I have receipts. I have reasons as to why I'm so passionate about it. It's my life literally in a conversation. Real change, diving deeper. That's everything I've done. It's everything I work for. It is what I do 7 days a week with the people I work with. Please open your mind and be open to what I've said. Don't be reactive or responsive. Don't feel like it's a personal stab. It is a highlight because I give a fuck about you. I appreciate you. Please do it for the future you. Keep looking after yourself. Ask the question why a little bit more. And remember that real change needs real fucking change.